down on it to cut the duct tape. Then she has to like put on shoes because it's cold. It's like winter, right? So there are none. She looked around, couldn't find any. So she's panicking. She's freaking out. So she wraps like some extra clothing she found around there and bags. She put like 3 or 4 bags on each one of her feet, plastic bags, and headed out the door. There was a coat in the closet. She took that, ran out. Because remember, all she has on is that cheerleading outfit. That's it. So she runs out. She sees 2 car prints as she leaves. So she didn't notice that when I guess she came in, that there were 2 vehicles there. So she runs down to the highway. She's thinking of flagging someone down, but then thinks that's probably not too good of an idea. But an older man, looks like he's about in his 60s. He sees her and walking, and he asked her, if she's okay, and she's like, I'm fine. But she did ask to use his phone, and he's like, just get in, and and I'll take you wherever you need to go. And she says no and walks off, and then he puts his vehicle in reverse, and he's like, get in and get warm, and then I'll let you use my phone. And she sees that creepy look on his face, and she runs back up the hill. She's like, and then while she's running, he yells, I was just trying to help you, you stupid bitch. So then we go back to Jackson, and he's practicing kind of walking because he's trying to get out of this hospital, and he's going to do it one way or another. So he finds out through Aurora that they found Sam, the guy, the other guy. He's making a deal because apparently they found him with crystal meth. That's what they picked him up for. But then he starts telling them everything of what happened. So the only information they give Jackson is that they took her up to a cabin they rented the night before in a place called Trader, New Hampshire. They won't give him the address to the cabin. And so he was like, you know what? I'll check myself out and I'll head up there. So he couldn't even wait for the paperwork. He was like, I gotta go. So he left. He called a ride share and had him take him to his house. He got the keys and he took the BMW. He was going to New Hampshire. So once there, he goes online, listens to the police scanners, and he gets a call from Leslie, Harley's mom, and she's pissed because she's like, why are you there? Well, like, why you didn't tell me? You could have took me, And he felt horrible because his mind just wasn't there. His mind was, she's somewhere in Trader, New Hampshire. I'm just going to get her. And he didn't even think to like tell her parents. It's like, oh. The detective calls him too and is like pissed at him, but he doesn't care. It is what it is. But the PI stays on the phone. And he just told him, he's like, you just should have told us. We would have come with you. And so then he tells him he has the address. He was like, but you can't do anything stupid. So he keeps the detective on the phone while he goes to the crime scene and the cabin. And of course, it's like crime scene tape up and everything. And of course, they're not going to give him any information. Just because you scream and holler, it's my girlfriend. They're not going to give you any information. It's a whole ass investigation. So then we go back to Harley. Poor thing, been out all night, trying not to die in the cold. She sees a little tiny house and a woman with a little child headed to a car. And so she goes up to them and she asks them for help. And they take her in their house and she gets warmed up. And then the woman knew who she was. She's like, oh, you're the girl from the news. She's like, do you want to call the police? And Harley was like, not right now, but asked if she could borrow her phone. So she calls Julie. And of course, Julie's like, where are you? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? And Harley's, asked, she's like, is Jackson dead? And Julie's like, no, he's up there right now trying to find you. So she asked the woman, where are we? And she's like, we're in Trader, New Hampshire. So she asks Julie for his number. She calls him, and of course he comes to get her. Of course, she was so happy to see him. They kiss. He tells her, what he saw after he heard the gunshot. And then she starts thinking about what she saw in his window before Parker showed up. So he tells her everything that happened. They go to lay down, and then when she wakes up, she's ready to speak with the cop. So she gets super pissed when she talks to him, and she finds out they gave Sam a deal that he's not going to get any time in connection with her kidnapping, and that they can't find Parker. So she's pissed. So she's like, so he did this to me. He pushed me in this van. He busted me upside the head. He was a part of the plot, and he's not going to get any time, and he doesn't even know where Parker is. But just because he gave you the address, and I wasn't even there, you know? She's like, I was the one that had to keep myself alive. You all did nothing. She was pissed, and I can understand that, you know? They leave the police station, and she has a conversation with Jackson that she feels like Parker is eventually going to kill her. She's like, he keeps getting more and more devious and smarter each time he comes after me. And so she tells him, you know, she wants to go home. And he was just like, okay, but where's home? You know, where? And she's like, I'm sorry, your place. I want to go to your place. So they go there, and her mother's there. He had forgotten to tell her about that. A lot's going on, okay? So she has like a shock, you know, to see her mom. But her mother's standing there. She looks terrified. And Harley just goes up to her and just gives her a warm hug. And she meets Aurora. Then her and Jackson go to bed. And he has a hard time as he keeps thinking about like what could have happened and how if she would have died, he could not have survived it. So he had a rough night. So she wakes up, and then old girl wants some. So she grabs his face, she starts kissing him, and they get their clothes off, and he starts to finger her, and she's almost about to come. And then of course he enters her from the back, and they both finish off great. It was a nice little scene to read. And then they pass back out, and in the morning she goes over to his computer to check her email, and she sees she has some from Amazon about her book. And she's selling it, and she hasn't even done any promotion. It's not massive numbers. It's like, you know, 3 the first day, 5, 6, you know, just they're low numbers, but hey, that's pretty good with no promotion. That's super good. And so and the reviews that people have left are good as well. And so Jackson tells her, you know, I'm going to teach you how to market your book. So Jackson goes all over the different ways that she can market her book on her own. And so Jackson lets her know, you know, whatever money you need, you know, to invest, you know, of course, I'll help you. And she doesn't want to take his money. And, you know, he just was like, I get that. He's like, what's mine is yours. And she's like, no, it's not. It's your money. And I just don't feel right taking it. And I'm not going to knock her for that, because most of the time, money, strings, I get it. Totally understand her issue with that. So he tells her, listen, I don't want you doing anything you don't want to do. He was like, just know if you need me, I'm here. And left it at that. So Harley starts working on her marketing. Before you know it, Nicole Woodhouse, which is going to be the name of the person that who she writes under, her pseudonym, seems like a real person. So Jackson walks in, sees all her progress. It's like, you need a break. So they're about to get it on, and then the doorbell rings. And so they rush to the door. It's her parents. And they sit down, they talk, they let her know that they're getting remarried. And Harley kind of doesn't know how to process the information. Like, she's happy for them, but it does bring up old emotions. And so she's honest with them, and she says that to them. She tells them. And they let her know that they never should have gotten a divorce. They have always loved each other. And after a few more minutes of talking and different things, and also her mother apologizing for what she did, saying, I should have never did that. I should have come to you and not planned that horrible plot. And she forgives her and lets them know, she's happy for him. And so then they let them know they want to get married in New York. And Harley and Jackson, they're happy about that. So they have a wild session on the couch, fall off, keep going. Jackson and Harley when they leave. And then when they're done, she starts to wonder about his family, like his parents. And she asks him, what do your parents call you? And he tells her, they call me Jack. And she asks for him, she's like, well, tell me about him. He tenses up. He reaches for his phone to call Aurora. And, of course that pisses Harley off, because she's like thinking, what the hell? We having a whole discussion and you need to text her? Like, what the hell? So he's like, he just wanted to check on her. She hadn't been home, and he just wanted to make sure she was okay. And then I guess he finally was like, all right, let me just open my mouth and let me talk. So um, he was like, you never asked me before. So, like, where is this coming from? He had an attitude. So she was like, well, honestly, because I wasn't in a good place with my parents, I didn't want to bring up anything that you may have had with yours. But now that I've made amends with them, yes, it's kind of made me want to know a little bit more about you and that, your parents, your family. So then Jackson's like, what do you want to know? So Jackson's parents are artists, and they are very much about living life to the fullest. They lived in a van for a year, like traveling all over, even up into Canada. And basically what happened is when Lily died, they saw him going into a hole of isolation. And they had given him an ultimatum, like, either you get out of this, or we're just going to just don't contact us. And so he's still upset that they gave up on him. His younger brother does text him, kind of keeps him updated on the parents and things like that. And his parents now live in Spain. It's been about 3 years since he's spoken with them. And Harley says, I think we should go to Spain. So he's surprised by this. And at first he's kind of taken back and he's kind of mad. But then he thinks about the fact, listen, you intruded with her. You felt like she should be on a good terms with her family. And you didn't have a problem telling her that. So don't be shocked that she has that same reaction, You're not in isolation anymore. You're a little different. This could be a time for you all to mend, especially after what I just went through. I would think you more so want to have your family around you, or at least communicate with them. And so he knew she was right. He couldn't really get mad. So later on, they had security come by. The new security detail. She's pissed. She don't like him. And when they leave, she tells him, like, I don't need that, and he's like, listen, Parker's still out there and no one knows where he is. And she's like, why can't you be my bodyguard? And he's like, she irked me with this, okay? Because I'm like, okay, you need to get a fucking grip. It's like, at this point, I want him to get you. I want him to get you. Because she made the statement. Every time he basically comes, he's smarter. Every time. So why would you feel like you don't need security? Okay? No. Jackson cannot be around you 24/7. That's just not realistic. You know that. Get out of La La Land and you need to deal with what's really happening. So she pissed me off with that. Because I was like, you know what? Let her ask. Just let him get her. If she gonna be that fucking stupid, just let him get her. Screw it at this point. So Aurora comes in while they're talking about the security. And she tells him that, she's filing for divorce from her husband. Jackson's like, you can stay here as long as you need. Harley looked at him like, the hell? Because she felt like he should have ran it past her. They are together. I get that. That is his house. Aurora did help him make pay off that house. That ain't, I don't know if you can really talk. You just a couple of weeks in. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. So, Aurora says, she's moving out. And she doesn't want to tell him where she's going. And then Jackson keeps badgering her. And then eventually she tells him she's moving in with Elliot Woodward. And so Jackson loses it. And it's enough to make you think, like, Harley kind of looked at him like, I can understand you not liking this, but this looked like some fucking feelings. Like, she was looking like, wait a minute, what's really going on? So she leaves. Aurora's mad. She's like, I thought we were friends, but clearly we aren't. And so we fast forward about a week later. Jackson's hired a wedding coordinator. He's paid for a little small wedding for Harley's parents. As he reaches in his pocket, he feels the engagement ring that he bought for her, which he bought after the first night they slept together. And he's thinking about, like, why he hasn't asked her. At first, of course, it felt too soon. Like, y'all still only a couple of weeks in. But now he's like, he wants to do it. And so he rubs on the ring and then he tells Harley, I love you. And the book goes off. So our next book is going to be Tangled Up in Hate. I think that's going to be a juicy one. I haven't read it yet, so this should be great. Tell me what you guys think of the book. What do you think of the series so far? Drop down in the discussion board in the comments. As always, I truly do appreciate your support, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.